Welcome to the Daily Agenda, the Online Safety Act 2023, although some people seem to think it's the Online Safety Act 2025, because now the full weight of it is being brought to bear on the people of this country. Well, certain sections of this country, in other words, particularly right-wing people. And who's responsible for it? Well, it's not Sir Keir Trotsky, is it? Or Leon Starmer and his vile regime. No, it's the previous vile regime, the Tories, who are in many ways more left-wing than this crowd. So shall we go back to 2019 with Robert Buckland, MP, Wiltshire yokel? Oh, I do hope that's not caused him fear, alarm and distress. And, well, if it has, well, that's just too bad, isn't it? Perhaps you'll have to apply for an order under the Online Safety Act. So yes, Buckland, who gloated on Sky News that soon we will have legislation stronger than China's to control the internet. And nobody batted an eyelid. Seemingly nobody paid much attention. I paid attention. I've been paying attention for very many years in actual fact. Yes, very many years. And before that, we had Anna Soubry, the Romaniac. Maybe that'll cause her fear, alarm and distress. Who cares? And aided and abetted by the so-called arch-Brexiteer Jacob Rees-Mogg, who signed a petition in league with Soubry demanding the government seize control of the internet. This was even before they had that Brino withdrawal agreement. Yes, absolutely. Shattering myths is one thing that I like to do. I prefer to do it. It turns me on big time. Absolutely, it really does. Because at the end of the day, this country is just sinking in a swamp of myths, isn't it? Particularly the centre-right, who like to pretend that all of this is to blame on Labour. We must blame Labour for it. They're to blame for everything. We must blame Leon Trotsky for everything. Sorry, Keir Starmer. There's a difference between the two. It's hard to differentiate between them at times. But no, the Tories are actually to blame for it. Labour has absolutely no intention, of course, of repealing the Online Safety Act. It's a decent thing to do. The petition demanding the repeal of the Online Safety Act, which now has over 435,000 signatures, I believe it is. One of them was mine, obviously. Of course, I would sign it. It's a cause close to my heart, and I've always supported it. And I always said the Online Safety Act would become an absolute monstrosity, sweeping attacks on freedom of expression. And for those who said, oh no, it was only about children, like Nadine Dorris, you remember that clown? Yes, oh yes, we've done something monumental to protect children, said she. And we hope that this will be the gold standard and that all nations in the world will adopt it. Yes, of course, that was the ruse, wasn't it? There was never any intention to protect just children at all. That was just a small percentage of the OSA. The real objective was to wipe out free speech. That was the way in which it was contrived. That's the way the Tories intended it. And I said it at the time, and some other people did as well. Not many, but lots of people are saying it now. It always has to come to the last chance saloon with the British, doesn't it? Before they sit up and pay attention. Should have been paying attention before. Should have been paying attention, in truth, when the Leveson report was published. Maybe then they'd have understood, because I understood it, that a tyranny was being hatched. And that was primarily because of the Hackgate scandal, because the evil establishment just could not allow another corruption scandal of that nature to take place ever again. It's one of the reasons why they threw me in prison a couple of years later. You know, because anti-corruption campaigns are verboten, unacceptable. And in talking of banning, the OSA, so yes, well, if it's about protecting children, why does it mention immigration? You know, anti-migration campaigns, because it was never about protecting children, was it? It was always about sweeping attacks on freedom of expression. And whilst most people thought, oh well, it doesn't really create any new criminal offences, well, it does. It seemed the way at the time that it wouldn't. And then, of course, some people said, well, you know, the intention to create a false narrative, in other words, a single narrative, the government's narrative, and that anyone publishing false and misleading information would be prosecuted for it. It seemed that that wouldn't happen, but it has happened, hasn't it? Because now we have that very strap in law, whereby the regime is saying that only we are the arbiters of truth. Get that one if you can. The arbiters of truth, this vile regime. A government press release is about as credible as the Dandy and Beano comics. In fact, I would argue they have more credibility than HM government press releases. So that's the area that we're in now. We are in the OSA tyranny, marshalled by the off-communists. And Ofcom was always going to become the off-communists. And of course the police are, at every level, are just totally and utterly brainwashed by the far left. Common purpose, Marxism today, commie purpose. This is a leftist regime, and as we all know surely by now, it was created by stealth and deceit, by sneakiness and snakish behaviour. And talking of sneaky, snakish behaviour, we had Nigel Fake Farage on GB Spews, and yes, saying, oh, you know, he wants to repeal it. Really, I can't see Nigel Farage ever repealing the OSA. I think he might do some minor tinkering around the edges, which is all reform will do with everything in this country. But an actual intention to repeal the OSA completely? No, absolutely not. No, if he gets into government, he'll have the riot act read to him by the civil service, and Nigel will dutifully roll over and blame it all on someone else, which is what Nigel always does, because, you know, he's craven and he's given to sneaky, snakish behaviour. So how is the OSA going to be repealed? Well, it's never going to be repealed by the centre right. I can tell you that for a fact. So you're lumbered with it unless a nationalist government comes to power, or the Professor Betts situation erupts. And we all know what Professor Betts has predicted. Then the OSA will be completely irrelevant, won't it? Surely. But it's a shame that it would have to come to the Betts scenario to ensure the OSA becomes irrelevant. But it may well have to come to that. We will see in due course. But the OSA was always designed as an instrument of tyranny. It was never what that lying snake Nadine Dorries said, i.e. protecting children. If that regime wanted to protect children, it would have done something meaningful about all of the grooming gangs cover-up, wouldn't it? And in particular, its successive Home Secretaries, from Mrs. Cover-Up onwards, Theresa May, quite simply the most vile, evil, monstrous Home Secretary this country has ever had, through to Elmer Fudd, Amber Rudd, and Pretstick Patel, and of course, what was the other one who's married to the Zionist? Oh yes, Suella Braverman, who admitted that multiculturalism has failed. Well, it would seem that even saying multiculturalism has failed, and it has, it was never going to succeed anyway, because multiculturalism has never succeeded anywhere on earth. It is just a Babylonian woe inflicted on every Western nation by vested globalist interests. And we all know who the globalists are, don't we? 95% of them. Yes, I think so. And if they don't, well then stop playing footsie. Stop playing footsie. You know perfectly well what I'm talking about when I mention globalists. The globalista. Sir Keir Starmer is one of their little foot soldiers. And so that's a very important point, is Starmer is just a rule taker. And forget this little spat that he had with Trump. That's not going to repeal the OSA, is it? I mean, it was entertaining. It was mirth. But that's all it was. It was some mirth. Nothing meaningful is going to be done about the OSA. And what Trump said earlier about, oh, there can't be a trade deal until this free speech issue has been ironed out. Well, it's been ironed out. He forgot the free speech issue, didn't he? Same with J.D. Vance. Don't go relying on these Americans. I've told you this repeatedly. That is also a fool's errand. So the OSA, yes, absolutely right. Well, you can circumvent it in terms of its sweeping censorship on social media using a VPN, but then the regime has come up with, oh, well, then we'll have to ban VPNs and we'll have to ban end-to-end encryption because we must have the right to invade everyone's privacy. No one must be allowed to have any form of individuality, no form of privacy. The evil regime must be allowed to read everything that we do and even predict our behaviour. Absolutely. Maybe we're almost into Minority Report territory. Or maybe it's already arrived. We'll just have to wait and see, won't we? But it won't be long. In truth, the way things are going right now in this country. And of course, we have this very serious issue in the courts with a multifaceted, multi-tiered justice system that has its favourite mascot groups and treats them more favourably than white people, obviously, yes. It's anti-white racism. It's not okay to be white, just remember that. Remember Sam Melia, it's okay to be white. It's not, is it? It's not okay to be white. You can't campaign against migration. You can't campaign against immigration. You can't campaign against legal or illegal immigration or anti-migrant campaigns. Or you can even get arrested for saying, stop the boats. Absolutely, the boats should be stopped. But they're not going to be stopped by anyone other than a nationalist government. And as for fake Farage and his fairy tales and false promises, well, I would never believe a man the word said. And talking about the spreading of false and misleading information, it's quite interesting really, because Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage and just about everyone else in the centre-right have a penchant for spreading false and misleading information, particularly about me. None of them have actually got the backbone to face me. Not even on social media, where I discovered today that 99% of these centre-right talking heads have actually blocked me on X. Yes, absolutely. It's become endemic. An epidemic of blocking. See, they love debate and free speech so much, they've had to reach for the block button on such a mass scale. That just goes to show you they have no argument and that they're afraid of debate and they loathe free speech, really, don't they? Otherwise, they would engage me in free speech, but they can't because they're afraid of losing, particularly when it comes to their false and misleading allegations. And so really, the OSA can and should be repealed, and we can replace it with legislation specifically to protect children without any of this sweeping attack on freedom of expression on political and politicized grounds. But a petition, I absolutely assure you. So Sir Keir Trotsky and his criminal gang will hold a little debate, fake debate, stage debate in Parliament. Perhaps Farage and Toxic Ties can sit there and do some tutting and a head shake and then have a friendly conversation and a nice meal and get drunk with the Labour scum after this. Sorry, did I just say scum? I do apologise, yeah. I meant to say something else, but it's not acceptable, is it, for you two? So yes, that's pretty much the way it'll be, and they'll say, well, we're not going to repeal it, obviously. Goodbye, go away, we don't like your opinion. Have some more OSA. Maybe they'll actually ban anyone from drawing up a petition of this nature in future. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking, absolutely not. We are heading into outright, full-blown tyranny. Of that, there is absolutely no doubt at all. The Ofcomunists, or Ofcom, whichever way you want to put it, are simply the arbiters of a neo-communist regime. Britain has become full-on Soviet. And when we're talking about Trotsky, because Keir Starmer was a Trotskyist, a stroke Pabloist, that's right. Use the synonym Pabloist because it sounds a little bit more posh to these middle-class lefties. Yes, but he was a Trotskyist. And he's an unreformed Trotskyist, and behind all the bluff and bluster about democracy, he's still a Trotskyist. I should remind you that, and I think I did this the other night, that Leon Trotsky was so extreme that even the other merchants of the Red Terror, that mass murder machine, had him knocked off because he scared even them. Absolutely. That's the Prime Minister's ideological background. That's his grandstanding and his groundwork. And that's why he will not repeal the OSA, because it's totally in line with Trotsky's way of thinking. Now remember, Trotsky invented racism. And he also invented that other smear, anti-Semitism. And Joe Stalin made it illegal to criticize Jews, and it was punishable by death. Do you see where we might be heading? Do you see where we might be heading? These are the type of people that we're talking about. The issue is not anything to do with right-wing politics, certainly not nationalism. The real problem in this country is extreme leftism and the fact that the centre-right, and this is the biggest problem in truth, the biggest problem is that the centre-right has veered so far into the centre that it's now almost touching nose to nose with the centre-left. I just can't differentiate between UKIP, for example. I can't differentiate between UKIP and a centre-left flag group. So how is there ever going to be any change from these con artists who can't even say what they mean and who just spend their time ranting about nationalism instead of far leftism? The real extremism. The real extremism is communism. Every variant and facet of communism. That is the real extremism, and that is the battle that we're now going to have to fight. That's what we're facing in this country. And before I close, all of the beautiful scenery in the background, I was told recently by someone very well connected in this area, is now up for development, and the reason for it, of course, is mass immigration. And over the way there's a very large estate, which the owner tried to sell recently for 10.3 million, despite the fact that it's probably worth 3 times that much, and he actually advertised it as being open for development. So they intend to rape every single blade of grass in this country to enforce their great replacement upon us. And if we did protest, they'll use their political police and the Online Safety Act. In truth, it's the Online Tyranny Act 2025, is it not? Just ask yourself right now in closing, what are you going to do about the Online Tyranny Act 2025? I know perfectly well what I'm going to do. You start thinking about what you're going to do and get it done.